Hey everyone, it's Sarah McMullen and I am live from my gym outside. I am dressed in my workout clothes because I'm here so that as soon as I'm done with this, I can go work out. I'm one of those people, I need to have my gym clothes on in order to just make myself go do it. So I'm excited to have people coming. We're going to give it a few minutes before we start so that people can join in. Once you join in, if you could tell me where you're coming from. I see my husband is here all the way from the Great Big Sandbox, and Sandy Kyle's here, and I saw Carla. So anyway, I'm glad to see you guys. I'm glad to Neil that you're here, and I appreciate it. And anyway, so we're just gonna wait and see. I know we have a few more people that have said they were gonna hop on, so I don't want to start. I'm gonna give them a minute or two to put down whatever they were doing, grabbing their lunch, and go from there. And anyway, I'm not sure I have anything to fill the time until we start. I'm gonna give them another minute or two. Anyway, how are your days going? You can type at the bottom, and if you touch the screen, it will pull up a thing where you can type responses and answer questions, or tell me what you're up to right now. Specifically, Neil, what's going on? And I hope you have a notebook. And one of the things that's going to happen is that I am going to, when we finish this, thanks Sandy, when we finish this, I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel and put the link out there. And thanks Carla. Anyway, so I hope that if it's just the three of us, that you guys are willing to answer questions and share what you guys know with us. Anyway, so I hate to just sit here and waste video time. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually start. And the original presentation, hey Vonda, I'm glad you're here. Vonda is having a really great day. She got a promotion yesterday. Her team rallied around her and helped it happen, so that's always an exciting day. Anyway, so this presentation came about because one of my friends here in San Antonio was planning a boot camp and had some speakers lined up, and at the last minute they had family emergencies, 3 of them, 3 out of the 5. You know, it was a disaster, and it wasn't anything that could be helped. And so my friend was actually calling just to check on me, and I asked her how the planning was going for this, because I knew it was around the corner, and she told me what happened, and I said, wow, I don't know what you're gonna do. And I told her I would pray for her, and I was praying for her that evening, and I realized that one of the topics that she had lost a speaker for was personal development, and that's something that I could speak on because it's something I try to spend time on. And so that's how this got started, and that was on Thursday. Saturday morning I prepared my presentation and gave my presentation, and it went well. I like to use class participation, and so it was great because there were over 100 people there, so I got a lot of comments and participation. So yeah, it was a huge boot camp, especially for San Antonio, kind of the South Texas area. So anyway, that's how this got started, and I forgot my tripod, so I have to hold the phone the whole time, so I apologize. I'm trying to hold it steady on the table. And so anyway, personal development. I was working my business, my Plexus business, and I was realizing I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be, and rather than blame my circumstances, I decided to start learning what could I do to change my own circumstances. And personal development was something that I had heard about, and something that I didn't realize what it was. I knew what the books were, but I didn't know there was a whole field called personal development. And I didn't realize that it was kind of the same idea as having a life coach. Tony Robbins, apparently, he kind of coined that term. There weren't life coaches before he started his work, and now everyone's a life coach somewhere. So anyway, I was really excited as I started doing learning and seeking out personal development, of all the exciting things that I was learning. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, we're going to talk about the what is personal development, how we do it, and why we do it. And before we start that, I wanted to talk about how personal development fits in with building a business. It's pretty easy to see the connection between building relationships. It's less straightforward to see how it helps to build your business. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the idea of revenue generating activity. If you're in business in any way, there are activities that are logistical, there are activities that are support, and then there are activities that are revenue generating. And depending on your business, if you are a doctor, the revenue generating activity is treating a patient or performing a procedure or a surgery. If you own a store, obviously it is the transaction. And if you own your own business, it is the specific activities that lead to someone making a purchase. Okay, so in Plexus or other network marketing companies, the revenue generating activity, and feel free to chime in if you have specific examples. Revenue generating activity is marketing. It is what you may call, I'll just say one-on-one meetings where you just sit and talk with people about it. That is revenue generating activity. And also talking to people about your business opportunity, if that's something that is part of your business, that's also revenue generating activity. And so it's really easy to see how those things increase your paycheck, how those things increase your bottom line. Personal development, it's not quite so clear cut. So we know those things that we should be doing. We should be spending time on marketing every day. We should spend time communicating with others who we know we could help. And whether it's through an actual conversation, a phone conversation, a text, a Facebook message, an email, whatever means of communication we choose, that's what we need to do. We need to be communicating with people. And sometimes we hesitate, though. We know we should do it, but sometimes instead we go read a personal development book because it might be easier. Sometimes we just keep our mouth shut. We know someone that could use our products. Maybe we're out and about running errands and we see someone we know that could use our products. Or we hear a story, of somebody talking about something going on in their life, and we know, I have the answer for that. But sometimes we hesitate and we hold back and we don't do what it is that's going to help them ultimately and also build our business. And one of the things that I thought about in this is the reason why we hesitate, and how personal development plays into this is that it's actually interesting that John Maxwell talks about this in some of his books. Tony Robbins talks about exactly why we have self-sabotaging behaviors. You can find it on YouTube. And even Sonia Dudley, for those who are in Plexus, those who aren't, she's still a great leader. She has a video where she discusses this exact topic. And so sometimes with personal development, we don't know what we don't know. I know that's a Taylor Swift line, but we may not know what our weaknesses are until we start learning, until we've just exposed ourselves to that information, and then we start seeing. So for example, that Tony Robbins, I just found it on YouTube. I was listening to it one day. It was just something I picked up because I had some time and I wanted to learn. And so he was talking about self-sabotaging behaviors, and it was something that interested me because we're all guilty of that at some point. And he explained why we do that. And I thought, wow, I would never have known if I just hadn't clicked on this random YouTube video. So we don't know what we don't know. So the first step is we need to spend time doing it and exposing ourselves to different people, different formats, different mediums, to learn the things that we don't realize that we're lacking. So I want to move on. John Maxwell is a personal development leader in the whole world, and he started out as a pastor, I think, and may still be one, but runs a huge business. And he says that the only way to grow your business is to grow yourself. And so John Maxwell, for example, has a ton of books, probably more than I can count, of books about leadership, qualities of leaders, laws of teamwork, laws of growth, how to think like a leader, Falling Forward. So he has written more books than we could probably read in an entire year. And so he's a great resource. But so there are other professional development leaders that I think are worth looking into. And if you have an example of somebody that I'm not mentioning, by all means, just type it in. Tony Robbins is huge. Sarah Robbins, that's interesting that they're not actually related. Sarah Robbins is great. She runs a blog. Eric Worre. Simon Sinek is amazing. He has a TED Talk that's probably one of the most, yes, Sarah Robbins, one of the most widely viewed TED Talks out there on YouTube. And he's written a few books. Start with Your Why, Start with Why, Leaders Eat Last. That's a book that's on my list. Simon Chan apparently is really great. I heard that Celeste from my company was on a podcast with him recently. Eric Worre, I'm trying to think of other people that I'm drawing a blank to right now. Gary Vaynerchuk. He is not in the network marketing industry, but he's brilliant. He's a brilliant marketer. And he has a great story. He was born in Belarus. He lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment with his family in maybe like New Jersey. They owned a liquor store, and he was seriously like chopping ice. But he started buying stuff at garage sales and flea markets, and started selling it when he was like 13, because he knew that was a better way. And so okay, there you go. As he grew up, he saw this whole internet thing. This was back in like 1994, and he used it to grow his parents' business, and like in 2 years, increase the revenue to like $40 million. His life goal is to be the owner of the New York Jets, and I know he's going to get there. Anyway, he is tremendous. He is all over social media. He's all over YouTube. He has a lot to say, a lot to give, a lot of knowledge to give. A word of caution, since I'm endorsing him, he uses the F word like every other word, and but he uses it in a way that it doesn't mean what we think it means. So just to warn you, if you have your kids, Gary Vaynerchuk, he goes by Gary VEE on social media. You can find him everywhere. He is pretty brilliant. So that's another really great person. Les Brown is great. And the thing that is so great is that these are people that, you know, they do a lot of things outside of my specific industry, but the lessons are applicable. Troy Dooley is really great. Victor Antonio is really great. So those are really great people. In Plexus, Leslie Zan, yes. In fact, she just did a workshop in Dallas a couple weeks ago. Inside Plexus, there are a bunch of people that focus on personal development, and there are a bunch of people that focus on business training. And sometimes business training is personal development because there are skills that we need to learn. So Tim and Michelle Thomas do Rock the Pink Live on YouTube. The Abarts, Jarrett and Kristen Abart, do Plexus U, and they involve Brenda Martin very often. They make amazing videos that are not Plexus specific very frequently. Sonia Dudley is really great. She's actually starting to be a motivational speaker and travel. I'm trying to think of who else. Sarah Marble is really great, and she's a really good friend of Sarah Robbins. So those are a few people also to look for online, especially on YouTube. Okay, so James Allen, I'm not even sure who James Allen is, but he was influential to John Maxwell, and he said most people are anxious to improve their circumstances, but most people are not anxious to improve themselves, therefore they remain bound. And that's the difference between success and those who haven't obtained success yet, is how willing are we to change ourselves to improve our own circumstances. And so there are things that we can learn. For example, I knew a few months ago was our Plexus convention, and I knew that having conversations with people made me feel anxious. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and I have conversations all the time, but conversations with strangers and this kind of on-purpose networking is something I never do. With 5 kids, I pretty much see my kids, my husband, and the people who I'm involved with through my kids or through church. And so it's just a situation that I wasn't comfortable with. So I Googled it. Actually, I searched it straight on YouTube. Yes. Okay. Simply Kristen videos. Interesting. She's very good. Her husband is a filmmaker, and so her videos are amazing. So anyway, so I searched on YouTube. I just typed in how to start a conversation, and I found videos. I watched videos for hours every day before I went to convention just to learn. And it was stuff that I probably knew already. I mean obviously I know how to start a conversation, but it was a lot of great information. So if there's something that you do know you want to work on, go search YouTube. Don't even bother with Google, just go search YouTube. So the next thing we want to talk about is Simon Sinek in Start With Your Why. He talks about the difference between inspiring versus manipulating to encourage behavior. Manipulating behavior is done through changing the price. It's done through promotions. It's done through fear. It's done through novelty, like new features maybe, or peer pressure. Like, hey, I want to be like that person. That's why they use celebrity endorsements. As far as network marketing goes, companies that rely on celebrities do not believe fully in their business model, because they're not using their distributors to use word of mouth and to bridge what's called the trust gap. You can look at the book that's called Unmarketing. It's a great book. I don't know the author. He also has a podcast and a website. Unmarketing is the name. Anyway, that's where the term, you can learn more about the trust gap. Anyway, so companies that use celebrity endorsements are doing so to manipulate you. And if you have a company, if you have a business model where you should be using your word of mouth and social media marketing, then your company, it's a sign to you that your company does not fully trust your business model to sell products. So there you go on that. So anyway, but the difference between inspiring and manipulating is, the definition of inspiring is give people a sense of belonging or purpose that has little to do with any external incentive. So I'm going to say that again. It says when you inspire someone, you are giving them a sense of belonging or purpose that has little to do with any external incentive. Basically, they want to be your customer. They want to join your team because they agree with you. They agree with why you're doing what you do. That's going to be your best customer. That's going to be your best team member, because it doesn't matter what kind of difficult circumstances come up in their lives, they will still be there. So there are a few examples of this. Apple is a great example. People respond to Apple because of their why. It is, they love Apple. It isn't because of the price, because they're usually overpriced. They're priced much higher than their competition. And people who are expressly against Apple, people who go with Droid or Galaxy, oftentimes do so because their why is they don't want to be part of Apple. They don't want to support Apple. So people are willing to pay a price to buy Apple products because of who they are. Okay, another example is a car dealership. Car dealerships don't lead with their why. They don't tell you why. They may make commercials about being strong or tough or sleek, and they may try and get you to identify. That's kind of lifestyle branding, that you want that specific car to help define who you are. And that may work. But a lot of times they use price. They lower their price. They have a promotion. Well, this weekend only. They use fear. Your car is going to lose value, so let's get you into this newer model. Trade in your old model. And sometimes they use celebrity spokesmen. I think Ford is a great example of leading with your why. We bought a Ford almost specifically because we wanted to buy a car from a company that didn't take government handouts. But they also used Mike Rowe for a while. They paid Mike Rowe as a celebrity spokesperson because people identified with him, and that was the kind of consumer they wanted. So anyway, that's kind of a difference. So the reason why we're talking about this is I want you to think of people who inspire you. There's got to be somebody that you run into in your neighborhood, that you knew growing up, that you run into in business, that inspires you. And I want you to think about a characteristic or action that they take that draws you to them. And even if it's just one, or you could think of multiple people with different attributes that inspire you, which is usually the case, right? Because we all have a strength, and that is what is going to draw people to us. So we want to work on, okay, how do we develop characteristics or behaviors that we don't have yet? So that little exercise of thinking of people that inspire us, that we need to notice, right? We need to notice what inspires us. That's the first step. The next step is we need to write it down. Tony Robbins talks about capturing our ideas. Capture what's inside your head, write it down all in one place, whether it's your phone, on your notepad, keep a notebook. Keep it in one place though. So write it down, and then you need to distill out what you need to learn, okay? Or what you want to learn, or what you want to develop. So that's the first step, is capturing it. Okay, the next step is to get learning. So John Maxwell talks about, somebody asked him when he was in his 20s, do you have a personal growth plan? Okay, I had no idea that there was such a thing as a personal growth plan, but that's something that you could do and make it have a little bit more order. I personally don't have a personal growth plan, and the reason why is because it just takes time to do that. Instead, I just say, I have a habit of, if I'm going to be in the car, I get on YouTube before I start my car and before I start driving, and I find what I want to listen to as I'm driving, and I live stream. I also have a plan that when I'm doing dishes, I live stream training. I have a plan that when I'm doing laundry, I live stream training. I have a plan that if I go for a walk or I'm at the gym and I'm walking, I live stream training. Okay, that's my plan. It's just I add it in every second when I can. Okay, so but I encourage you, if you are a little bit more organized than I am and you like to have a little bit more order, go for it. Set a plan. Make a list of books that you want to read this year. And start that way. You know, make a list of people that you want to emulate and watch them. Okay, so have a plan. John Maxwell has the law of intentionality, that nothing good happens automatically. Okay, he talks about we don't get better with age. Experience isn't the best teacher. Experience plus insight is the best teacher. So this is kind of a process. It's not just, hey, it happens and so then I'm automatically better. We need to be intentional about what we're doing. Hey, thanks for the heart from whoever gave me heart. So the next thing we want to do is talk about developing, okay, so you're going to find a time when you're going to do it, and your schedule is different than mine. You can figure out when is the best time for you to do it. Maybe it's during your kids' nap times. Maybe your kids are gone during the day. Maybe it's at night, you like to read before you go to bed. Whatever it is, set your time. The next thing I thought was very interesting, John Maxwell, obviously I read a lot from him. He says that I put my money where my values are. And I think you should add time to that. And I'm sorry, Sandy, I keep seeing that you keep joining, so I'm not sure if it's dropping you off. You never know with the connection with Periscope. Sometimes it gets a bad connection and it just disconnects. So I apologize if that's happening. So he says that we put our money where our values are. And I know that's great for an author to say that and suggest that we need to spend money on books, because that does ultimately help him. But I would suggest that, I know, it's probably just Periscope. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves with Periscope is it just loses connection sometimes. So add to money, add time to that, right? We put our time where our values are, or we should. And so rather than spending a ton of money on personal development, I have a few suggestions on how to accomplish it on the cheap. So the first one is YouTube. Okay, search everything you want on YouTube. The next thing, really, you could stream hours and use your Wi-Fi. Make sure you have your Wi-Fi assist turned off if you have your Apple new iOS, or just plan to spend your money where your value is and pay for data if you're going to be live streaming in the car or live streaming on a walk. That's where I spend my money on personal development, is on data. Okay, so the next thing is Periscope. Periscope is a great resource. There are people on here all the time doing different trainings. Go find people that you read their books or that you admire and follow them on Periscope, because likely they do at least a daily, if not a weekly training. The next thing is Twitter. The thing that's great about Twitter is that you learn from people who aren't in your own network. There are people that I learn from that I would never ever meet on Facebook, which is where my personal network is. And so it's not that you want to know everything they do on Twitter, but when they update their blog or they produce a new video, that's where they're going to let people know. So it's great to just follow them on Twitter. Email newsletters, Sarah Robbins, Eric Worre, a bunch of people have email newsletters that are free. They produce videos, they have a short blog, there are a lot of free resources out there that you don't have to buy their books to get. Victor Antonio is amazing and puts all of his videos online on YouTube for free, and he is tremendous. He travels the world speaking to all kinds of companies, does amazing things. He's actually filming a TV show right now for Spike, I think. So anyway, he's a tremendous asset. If you're in Plexus, you should go find his videos that he's done for us. He also worked with Super Saturday in 2015, so he's in the Super Saturday workbook. You should go ask around if you don't have a copy of it and find what he wrote. Okay, great training there. Okay, plug into your team training, plug into your company's training. It's all free. Spend the time, show up to grow up is how it goes. So the next thing is books. I actually like reading books. I don't particularly love reading on a Kindle. Some people do. So I use my library very often. They stock those books. You can request them. And if you have a team or if you're a part of a team, consider starting a lending library. If everybody buys one book, then and you send them around to each other, then the cost is much more minimal. I forgot to mention Presley Swaggerty is another person that I follow. He wrote a book, Millionaire by Halftime. That's on my list. That this summer when it came out, you couldn't even get it. Thanks, Fonda. So Half Price Books is another option if you have that where you live, or you maybe have another kind of option that's similar to Half Price Books, where you can find that kind of stuff very cheap. So that's kind of how to do personal development. You've got your list of what you want to learn. You've got your people that you want to emulate. Sorry guys, that's some person in the parking lot. Sorry, that was really loud. Okay, so you've got your person that you want to emulate. You've got your ideas for what you want to learn. You're setting your time. You're setting your format, whatever is your most favorite format, whatever works best. Setting a habit, the easiest way to do it is to make it enjoyable. If it's something that you look forward to and that you have a positive association with, you are going to do it more frequently. So make it something that you look forward to. Take a chore that you don't prefer, like dishes, and make it personal development time. I do that all the time, and it gets me through doing dishes, which I honestly hate. So the next thing you need to do is apply what you've learned. You need to go pick something that you've learned and go do it. So to finish that example of when I went to convention and I wasn't sure how to have conversations, I wore a pink boa just so I could have a conversation starter, because I wasn't quite ready to just start talking to random people. But I had so many people notice my pink boa and ask about it that I spoke to hundreds of people over the course of the weekend. And I started conversations. I had to use my skill of how to leave a conversation gracefully, what to talk about, what questions to ask, all of these things that I took notes on for days before convention. I made sure I did it when I was at convention. I made sure to talk to people and use those skills. And I used them in a setting where it wasn't a big deal if I failed, right? It's not a big deal if I said something awkward, because likely these are people I won't meet again because there are so many. Or it's people that they're my friends already and they're not going to care, right? They're going to accept me for who I am. So apply it is key. Practicing it, okay? Practice. So Eric Worre talks about skills to practice in his book that they're kind of two important skills. Prospecting is this idea of developing sales leads, and basically the key is network on purpose every day. And that's a skill that some people are so good at. And if you are a business owner, then that is going to help you. If you are a business owner and that's a skill you don't have yet of networking on purpose every day, it's something that we can develop. And it's a skill that it really isn't, it's not there, hey, I'm only talking to you because I want to get money from you. We can see that when people are doing that to us. That's not what we're doing. We're networking on purpose. We are meeting people, we're building relationships, and we're following up with those relationships, finding ways to keep in contact with them. And eventually, either we're going to learn something from them, or we can find a way to help them. Okay? The next thing that he says is the next skill is extending invitations. We are successful when we have extended an invitation. We should not make goals based on other people's ability to choose, that depend on their ability to choose. We should make goals that depend on our ability to choose, on our own behavior. So we should make goals based on, okay, how are we doing at networking every day? I need to network with a certain number of people every day. Or I'm going to give a business card. I'm going to friend a person. I'm going to start a conversation with a person. Whatever it is that you or I need to work on. As far as inviting, we need to learn to invite people to have a conversation, to get to know us, to get to know them, to friend us on Facebook, or to attend an event, to learn more about what can we do to learn more about them so that we can see how we can help them. Okay? That's what we're doing, is we're learning to network. We need to learn to extend invitations. Sarah Robbins, she has a great book that goes beyond what her blog does, and she has phrases in her book that talk about, that give you words to use when you're going to do these two things, networking on purpose and extending invitations. And it's important to practice. So what I did is, because she has a very specific voice in her writing and how she speaks, and it's not my voice. So what I did is I took her phrases and I filled a notebook with, okay, her phrase was this. How could I say this so it sounds like something that would come from me naturally? And I tweaked the wording, and I revised it until it sounded like something I would say. And then I took my phone and I recorded it in voice memos until it sounded natural. That's all I did. I just said it over and over again until it sounded like something I would say. And so that I have that kind of in my toolbox, and that's how I'm practicing networking on purpose. That's why I'm practicing developing how to extend an invitation. So practicing when it doesn't matter, right? Practice on your family, practice to your voice recorder on your phone, and practice with teammates if you need to. Okay, so that is something we need to do. Now, hey Sandy, thanks. I will post the link, Sandy, on YouTube, so you can watch it later. The next thing that we need to consider is why. It's really the last thing we need to consider. Why we do personal development. And really, the reason why we do personal development is so that we become more effective at helping other people. We cannot help other people if they don't trust us. We can't help other people if we don't inspire excitement, enthusiasm, passion for what we do, excitement about the products that we sell. We can't help them if we can't effectively extend an invitation. If we are so nervous about having a conversation with a stranger, then we can't help them. So we spend time on personal development in order to more effectively help people. And so that's how it becomes a revenue generating activity. That's how it becomes something that you need to spend your time on. Your agenda should be to add value to others. That's a huge movement in marketing right now. Gary Vaynerchuk, like I said, he has an entire book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it's something that you can watch him talk about on YouTube. You could buy the book, listen to it. And basically it is give, 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 and then ask. And he says, I give so much so that when I finally ask, they almost feel kind of embarrassed or indebted to me. And so they're like, oh, I'll at least listen. And so he talks about giving of yourself emotionally. And so the whole reason I actually gave this talk was because I have a friend who she is very generous with her time. She's very generous with her emotions, and financially she's very generous to others. And so when she had a need, it wasn't really like, hey, I need to fix it. It was, I want to help her, because that's the kind of person she inspires me to be. So that's what I have to say about personal development. I hope it helps you, and I hope it inspires you to spend some time on it. And thanks so much for watching.